Kazakh Khanate. The Kazakh Khanate Kazakh Handyğy, Kazaq Handyğy, QZQHND was a successor of the Golden Horde existing from the 15th to 19th century, centered on the eastern parts of the Desht-i Qipchaq. The Khanate was established by Janibek Khan and Kerei Khan around 1465. Both Khans came from Turco-Mongol clan of Tur, which traces its lineage to Genghis Khan through dynasty of Jochids. The Tur clan continued to rule the Khanate until its fall to the Russian Empire. From 16th to 17th century, the Kazakh Khanate ruled and expanded its territories to eastern Cumania, modern-day West Kazakhstan, to most of Uzbekistan, Karakalpakstan, and the Syr Darya River, with military confrontation as far as Astrakhan and Khorasan Province, which are now in Russia and Iran respectively. The Khanate was later weakened by a series of Oirat and Dzungar invasions. These resulted in a decline and further disintegration into three Juzes, which gradually lost their sovereignty and were incorporated to the expanding Russian Empire in the 19th century. The establishment of the Kazakh Khanate marked the beginning of Kazakh statehood, whose 550th anniversary was celebrated in 2015. History. In 1227, a proto-Kazakh state was formed within the Golden Horde in the steppe, which was the White Horde. After its separation from the Golden Horde in 1361, the White Horde became an independent state for a certain period of time, sometimes uniting with the Blue Horde to re-establish the Golden Horde. However, after the death of Khan of the Golden Horde, Barak Khan in 1428, the Golden Horde became fragmented, and the White Horde itself was divided into the Uzbek Khanate and the Nagai Horde, descendants of ruling Mongol tribes. The remaining land was divided between Mustafa Khan in the south and Mohammad Khan in the north. The Uzbek Khanate, which dominated most of present-day Kazakhstan, was ruled by Abulkhan Khan, who conspired in killing Barak Khan. Under Abulkhan Khan's leadership, the Uzbek Khanate became a corrupt, unstable, and weak state that often dealt with internal problems. To make matters worse, the Khanate itself was raided by Oirats, who pillaged nomadic settlements and major cities, where they were looted, damaged, and had civilians massacred. Peace was made in 1457 between the Uzbeks and the Oirats, where Abulkhan Khan suffered a severe defeat, which made him lose reputation among the Uzbeks. Formation. The formation of the Kazakh Khanate began in 1459, when several Uzbek tribes, dissatisfied with Abulkhan's rule, led by two sons of Barak Khan, Janibek and Kerei, fled the Uzbek Khanate in an event known as the Great Migration. The two brothers led the nomads towards Mykhilistan, eventually settling and establishing an independent state. The Khan of Mykhilistan united with them, offering them support against their opponents. Around 200,000 nomads joined Janibek Khan and Kerei Khan's movement, which had had a huge power and influence that it sparked fear in Abulkhan. The new Khanate soon became a buffer state between the Mykhilistan and the Uzbek Khanate. Although both Janibek Khan and Kerei Khan were considered the founding rulers of the Kazakh Khanate, it was Janibek Khan who initially wielded the most power. Eager to liberate his land from Abulkhan Khan, Janibek invaded the Uzbek Khanate in 1468, sparking the Kazakh War of Independence. Abulkhan, in response, launched a campaign against the Kazakhs, but died on his way to Jetissu. Upon the death of Kerei Khan in 1473/4, Janibek Khan became the sole ruler. The early years of the Kazakh Khanate were marked by struggles for control of the steppe against the Abulkhan's grandson, Mohammad Shaybani. In 1470, the Kazakhs defeated Shaybani at the city of Ayasi, present-day Turkestan, forcing the Uzbeks to retreat south to Samarkand and Bukhara. In 1480, Kerei Khan's son Burunduk became Khan. During his reign, the Kazakhs were able to muster an army of 50,000 Ghazis and to repeatedly defeat the forces of Mohammad Shaybani along the Syr Darya River. It was during his reign that the Uzbeks concluded peace with the Kazakhs in 1500, thus giving all the former Uzbek Khanate lands in the north of Syr Darya to the Kazakh Khanate. Regarding these events, 16th-century Khader Duglati in his Tarikh-i reports, "At that time, Abulkhan Khan exercised full power in Dasht-i Qipchaq. He had been at war with the sultanis of Juzes, while Janibek Khan and Kerei Khan fled before him into Moghilistan. Ism Sultan received them with great honor and delivered over to them Bashi, which is near Chu, on the western limit of Moghilistan, where they dwelt in peace and content." On the death of Abulkhan Khan, the Ulis of the Uzbeks fell into confusion, and constant strife arose among them. Most of them joined the party of Kerei Khan and Janibek Khan. They numbered about 200,000 persons, and received the name of Uzbek Kazakh. The Kazakh sultans began to reign in the year 870, 1465, 1466, but God knows best, and they continued to enjoy absolute power in the greater part of Uzbekistan till the year 940, 1533, 1534 AD. Expansion of the Kazakh Khanate. Qasim, son of Janibek, became the Khan in 1511. Under his rule, the Kazakh Khanate reached its greatest strength, so much that the Nogai Horde, which occupied the territory of modern western Kazakhstan, became its #1 enemy. Qasim successfully captured the Nogai capital Sarai-Juk in 1520, pushing the Nogai Horde to the Astrakhan Khanate. Under Qasim Khan, the borders of the Kazakh Khanate expanded. The population reached 1 million people. It was during the reign of Qasim Khan that the Kazakh Khanate gained fame and political weight in the modern Euro-Asian arena. Qasim Khan also became a major patron of the arts, literature, and religion, allowing Islam to hold great political and sociocultural importance among Kazakh society. Under his reign, the Tsardom of Russia also became the first major state to establish diplomatic relations with the Kazakh Khanate. Upon doing so, Qasim Khan established his reputation as a successful leader, as his empire became known as a up-and-coming political entity to the Western Europe. The manuscript of Tariq Safavi, written in Persian by Persian historians, wrote about Qasim Khan, bringing most of the Dasht-i Qipchaq under his absolute control. The manuscript also describes how a Kazakh squad of 8,000 soldiers helped Shaybani Khan of Bukhara annex the Iranian city of Khorasan. Qasim Khan also instituted the first Kazakh code of laws in 1520, called Qasim Khan and Kayaskajoli transliterated. Qasim Zen and Kaskajoli Bright Road of Qasim Khan. Qasim Khan also ratified his alliance with the Timurid leader Babur, particularly after the fall of the Shaybanids, and was thus praised by the Mughals and the populace of Samarkand. Mirza Mohammad Haider wrote in his Tarikh-i that Qasim Khan subdued the whole of the Dasht-i Qipchaq. His army numbered more than 1,000,000 men. Excepting Jujie Khan, there had never reigned a greater Khan than he in that country. Turmoil and Civil War. After the death of Qasim Khan, the Nogais restored their status quo by capturing the territory before in the west of the Turgai River. The Kazakh Khanate itself focused on the territory of Jetisu and South Kazakhstan, where strife was starting to happen. The central territory of Kazakhstan, Sari Arka, at that time was nominally part of the Kazakh Khanate. The Khanate of Sibir seized the northern regions of Sari Arka. When Tahir Khan took the Kazakh throne, the Oirats invaded and captured eastern parts of Sari Arka in the 1520s. In the early 1530s, a civil war began in the Kazakh Khanate between the grandsons of Janibek Khan. Haknazar Khan emerged as victories and reunited the Khanate under his control. Haknazar Khan 1537–1580. Under Haknazar Khan, also known as Haknazar or Kaknazar Khan or Aknazar Khan, the Kazakh Khanate faced competition from several directions: the Nogai Horde in the west, the Khanate of Sibir in the north, Moghilistan in the east, and the Khanate of Bukhara in the south. Haknazar Khan began to liberate the occupied Kazakh lands. He returned the northern regions of Sari Arka to the Kazakh Khanate. Having begun a campaign against the Nogai Horde, Haknazar reconquered Sarashik from the Nogai Horde and the surrounding Kazakh territories as well. In the fight against the Khivans, the Kazakhs conquered the Manjushlak Peninsula and successfully repelled the Oirats. Haknazar began a campaign against Meghilistan with the aim of finally incorporating Jetisu into the Kazakh Khanate. The campaign ended successfully and resulted in defeat for Meghilistan. However, in the north, there was a threat from the Khanate of Sibir, led by Khan Kuchum. In 1568, the Kazakhs successfully defeated the Nogai horde at the Imbe River and reached Astrakhan but were repelled by Russian forces. Shaigai Khan 1580–1582, the ninth Khan of the Kazakh Khanate 1580–1582 ruled. After the death of Haknazar Khan, Shaigai, the grandson of Janibek Khan, the son of Jadic Sultan, became Khan in 1580–1590. Although he was 80 years old at the time, he was an influential Khan among the Kazakhs. Little is known about his life. Shaigai Khan continued the direction of foreign policy of the Kazakh Khanate, followed by Haknazar Khan. He rationally used the conflicts between Shaybani's heirs to strengthen the Kazakh state. In 1582, Bukhara Khan Abdullah, Kazakh Khan Shaigai and his son Talkkhan Sultan joined forces and organized the Ulutau campaign against the ruler of Tashkent, Baba Sultan. Baba Sultan was defeated and fled to the Desht-i Qipchaq steppe. Uzbek and Kazakh troops chased Baba Sultan to Sarasyu and Ulutau. Shaigai Khan died during that campaign. On his way back to Turkestan, Baba Sultan was killed by Sultan Talkkhan and brought to Abdullah. Satisfied with the elimination of the enemy, Abdullah Khan presented risk to the province of Africant in the Samarkand region. Talkkhan Khan 1582–1598. Talkkhan Khan expanded control of the Kazakh Khanate over Tashkent, Fergana, Andijan, and Samarkand. In 1598, Kazakh forces approached Bukhara and besieged it for 12 days, but afterwards the Bukharan leader Pir Mohammed and reinforcements under the command of his brother Baki Mohammed pushed back the Kazakhs. In that battle, Talkkhan Khan was wounded and died during the retreat back to Tashkent. Ism Khan 1598–1628. After the death of Talkkhan Khan came Ism Sultan, son of Shihan Khan. His reign was the time of the next third strengthening of the Kazakh Khanate after Qasim Khan and Kakhnazar Khan. Ism Khan moved the capital of the Khanate to Signak in Turkestan and suppressed the revolts of the Karakalpakstan. There followed a 15-year period of calm between the Kazakh Khanate and the Khanate of Bukhara. Ism Khan established peace with the Khanate of Bukhara and returned control of Samarkand to them. However, Bukhara was still bitter about the loss of Tashkent, which led to additional conflicts. Starting in 1607, the Khanate of Bukhara engaged in several battles and eventually obtained control of Tashkent. Ism Khan united the Kazakh army and began a campaign against the Tashkent, Khan Tursun Mohammed, and Khan of Bukhara. In 1627, he defeated the enemy. Ism Khan abolished the Tashkent Khanate, and the war finally ended. Salkhan Jangir Khan 1629–1680. During the reign of Salkhan Jangir Khan, a new and powerful rival of the Kazakhs appeared in the east, known as the Dzungar Khanate. The Dzungar had recently converted to Mahayana Buddhism, and their Erdeni Bachar believed he could re-establish the 13th century empire of Genghis Khan. However, much had changed since the days of the Mongol Empire. The Kazakhs had entirely converted to Islam under the authority of Emir Timur, who also re-established new centers of power such as Samarkand and Bukhara, which had greatly influenced the founding of the Kazakh Khanate. In 1652, the Dzungar leader Erdeni Bachar attempted to eliminate the Kazakh Khanate and its inhabitants. He dispatched more than 50,000 Dzungar warriors against the Kazakh Khanate, which refused to submit to him. The early stages of the Kazakh-Dzungar wars took place in the Altai Mountains, and later battles were fought on the vast steppes. Unable to halt the advance of the Dzungars, the Kazakh Gazis, and their leader Salkhan Jangir Khan's forces were defeated. In the year 1680, Salkhan Jangir Khan died in battle. Talkkhan 1680–1718. Talkkhan was elected as the leader of the Kazakh Khanate immediately after the death of Sultan Jangir Khan, and he led the battered Kazakh warriors across the steppes to resist the advance of the Dzungars. The already weakened Kazakhs were once again faced with defeat at Seyram and soon lost many major cities to the Dzungars. Talkkhan soon sought alliances with the Kyrgyz in the southeast, who were also facing a Dzungar invasion in their Issyk-Kul Lake region and even the Uyghurs of the Tarim Basin. In 1687, Dzungars besieged Hazrat-i Turkestan and were forced to retreat after the arrival of Subhan Quli Khan. In 1697, Suang Rabdan became the leader of the Dzungar Khanate, and he dispatched several of his commanders to subjugate Talkkhan, and many major wars between the Dzungars and the Kazakh Khanate continued into the following years: 1709, 1711, 1712, 1714, and 1718. The Kazakh Khanate had indeed been weakened by the confrontation, and nearly one-third of their population had been lost by the ensuing conflict. With Talkkhan's death in 1718, the Kazakh Khanate splintered into three Juz: the Great Juz, the Middle Juz, and the Little Juz. Each Juz had its own Khan from this time onward. Talkkhan is also known for refining the Kazakh code of laws and reissuing it under the title Jeti Jargi, transliterated Jeti Jargi 7 Charters. Abulkhan 1771–1781. Abulkhan was a Khan of the Middle Juz or Horde who managed to extend his control over the other two Juzes to include all of the Kazakhs. Before he became Khan, Abulkhan participated in Kazakh Dzungar wars and proved himself a talented organizer and commander. He led numerous campaigns against the Kazakh Khanate and the Kyrgyz. In the latter campaign, his troops liberated many cities in southern Kazakhstan and even captured Tashkent. During his actual reign, Abulkhan did his best to keep Kazakhstan as independent as possible from the encroaching Russian Empire and the Chinese Qing dynasty. He employed a multi-vector foreign policy to protect the tribes from Chinese and Dzungar aggressors. He also sheltered the Dzungar Warratashes Amersana and Dawachi from attacks by the Kasha Oirat king of Tibet, Labizang Khan, as the Dzungar Khanate fractured following the death of Galdan Saran in 1745. However, once Amersana and Dawachi were no longer allies, Abulkhan took the opportunity to capture herds and territory from the Dzungars. Kaniseri Khan 1840–1847. Kaniseri Khan was the last Kazakh Khan who defeated Shirghazi Mohammad Khan, Khan of the Junior Juz, and Ubaydullah Khan, Khan of the Elder Juz, to unite the Kazakhs one last time. Following his rule, he became leader of national liberation movement that resisted the capture of Kazakh lands and segregation policies by the Russian Empire. He was the grandson of Abulkhan and is largely regarded as the last ruler of the Kazakh Khanate. By the mid-19th century, the Kazakhs fell under the full control of the Russian Empire and were banned from electing their own leader or even given representation in the empire's legislative structures. All fiscal/tax collections were also taken away from local Kazakh representatives and given to Russian administrators. Kaniseri Khan fought against the Russian imperial forces until his death in 1847. In 1841, at an all-Kazakh Kurultai, Kaniseri was elected as Khan's supreme leader by all Kazakh representatives. The ceremony of coronation followed all Kazakh traditions. As a freedom fighter and popular as a leading voice against the increasingly aggressive and forceful policies of the Russian Empire, Kaniseri was ruthless in his actions and unpredictable as a military strategist. By 1846, however, his resistance movement had lost momentum as some of his rich associates had defected to the Russian Empire, having been bribed and been promised great riches. Betrayed, Kaniseri Khan grew increasingly suspicious of the remaining members of the resistance, possibly further alienating them. In 1847, the Khan of the Kazakhs met his death in Kyrgyz lands during his assault on northern Kyrgyz tribes. He was executed by Orman Khan, the Kyrgyz Khan who was subsequently rewarded by the Russians with a larger estate and an official administrative role. Kaniseri Khan's head was cut off and sent to the Russians. Over the last decade, Kaniseri Khan has been increasingly regarded as a hero in Kazakh literature and media. A monument Kaniseri Khan can be seen on the shore of the river Esel in the capital of Kazakhstan, Nur Sultan. Disintegration of Khanate and Russian conquest. Gradual decline, disintegration and accession of Kazakh territories into the Russian Empire began in the mid-18th and ended in the second part of the 19th century. By the mid-18th century, as a result of long-lasting armed conflicts with Dzungars and Oirats, the Kazakh Khanate had started to decline and further disintegrate into three Juzes, which formerly constituted the Kazakh Khanate in a confederate form. By the mid-19th century, some tribes of the Middle Juz started war with the Russian occupiers. However, the process was long and filled with many minor and major armed conflicts and resistance. Russian colonial policies/strategies brought military fortresses, many settlements, and externally imposed rules into Kazakh lands. A series of laws were introduced by the Russian Empire, abolishing local indigenous government in the form of Khan rule, instituting segregationist settlement policies, etc., resulting in numerous uprisings against colonial rule. Significant resistance movements were led by leaders such as Isate Teymanyuli 1836-1837, Mehmet Utamasuli 1836-1838, and Esat Kotabaryuli 1847-1858. Meanwhile, the senior Juz sided with the Emirate of Bukhara and the Khanate of Kakhan from the south and started opposing the expansion of the Russian Empire. Full Russian rule over all Kazakh lands was established in the second half of the 19th century after the southern towns of Akhmeshit, Shymkent, Ali-Ata, and others were taken by the Russian Imperial Army. Slavery. By the mid-18th century, the Russian Empire had expanded into Siberia, and Russian settlements started to appear along the Volga and Yaik rivers. The Kazakh-Russian relationship at the border regions was tense, which often resulted in mutual raids by Russian Cossacks on Kazakh lands and Kazakhs on Russian settlements. Kazakh Khanate slave trade on Russian settlement. During the 18th century, raids by Kazakhs on Russia's territory of Orenburg were common. The Kazakhs captured many Russians and sold them as slaves in the Central Asian market. The Volga Germans were also victims of Kazakh raids. They were ethnic Germans living along the river Volga in the region of southeastern European Russia around Saratov. In 1717, 3,000 Russian slaves, men, women, and children, were sold in Khiva by Kazakh and Kyrgyz tribesmen. In 1722, they stole cattle robbed from Russian villages and people trapped in captivity and sold in the slave markets of Central Asia. In 1722, in Bukhara, were over 5,000 Russian prisoners. In the middle of the 17th century, 500 Russians were annually sold to Khiva by Kazakhs. In 1730, the Kazakhs' frequent raids into Russian lands were a constant irritant and resulted in the enslavement of many of the Tsar's subjects, who were sold on the Kazakh steppe. In 1736, urged on by Kirillov, the Kazakhs of the Lesser and Middle Hordes launched raids into Bashkir lands, killing or capturing many Bashkirs in the Siberian and Nogay districts. In 1743, an order was given by the Senate in response to the failure to defend against the Kazakh attack on a Russian settlement, which resulted in 14 Russians killed, 24 wounded. In addition, 96 Cossacks were captured by Kazakhs. In 1755, thousands of Bashkirs would be massacred or taken captive by Kazakhs over the course of the uprising, whether in an effort to demonstrate loyalty to the Tsarist state or as a purely opportunistic maneuver. In the period between 1764 and 1803, according to data collected by the Orenburg Commission, 20 Russian caravans were attacked and plundered. Kazakh raiders attacked even big caravans which were accompanied by numerous guards. In spring 1774, the Russians demanded the Khan return 256 Russians captured by a recent Kazakh raid. In summer 1774, when Russian troops in the Kazan region were suppressing the rebellion led by the Cossack leader Pugachev, the Kazakhs launched more than 240 raids and captured many Russians and herds along the border of Orenburg. In 1799, the biggest Russian caravan, which was plundered at that time, lost goods worth 295,000 rubles. By 1830, the Russian government estimated that 200 Russians were kidnapped and sold into slavery in Khiva every year. Russian Empire slave trade on Kazakh settlement. In 1737, Empress of Russia Anna Ionovna issued an order that legalized slave trade in Siberia. According to some artifacts, price of a Kazakh male was 10 rubles and Kazakh female was 6 rubles. There were accounts of Russian Cossack raids that captured Kazakh families, which were then taken to Petropavlovsk and Omsk, where they were sold to wealthy Russian landowners into serfdom. By the end of 18th century, the lands of Kazakh Junior Juz or Junior Horde were incorporated into the Russian Empire, and raids by Kazakhs on Russian colonies has gradually declined and stopped. On May 23, 1808, Governor Peter Kaptsevich signed an order that freed all slave or serf Kazakhs of both genders who reached the age of 25. Abolition of slavery. The Russian administration liberated the slaves of the Kazakhs in 1859. However, isolated abductions of Russians or Ukrainians by Kazakhs for the slave markets of Central Asia continued until the Tsar's conquest of Khiva and Bukhara in the 1860s. At major markets in Bukhara, Samarkand, Karakol, Karshi and Charju, slaves consisted mainly of Iranians and Russians and some Kalmucks. They were brought there by Turkmen, Kazakh and Kyrgyz. A notorious slave market for captured Russian and Persian slaves was centered in the Khanate of Khiva from the 17th to the 19th century. During the first half of the 19th century alone, some 1 million Persians as well as an unknown number of Russians were enslaved and transported to Central Asian Khanates. When Russian troops took Khiva in 1873, there were 29,300 Persian slaves captured by Turcoman raiders. According to Joseph Wolff report of 1843-1845, the population of the Khanate of Bukhara was 1,200,000, of whom 200,000 were Persian slaves.